So I just spent 2 weeks in New York, and I was spending $17 a day. All right. That's not entirely true. Let's back up a little bit. So I'm not including the hotel. The hotel averaged about $185 a night, which is pretty cheap for a hotel in New York. I mean, that's not bad. Okay. And I'm not including the free food that I got at Bloomberg when I was working there. So I got free breakfast and lunch, and the only meal I had to buy was dinner. And for dinner, there's a Shake Shack right near the hotel. So a whole bunch of times I went to Shake Shack for dinner and got a burger and fries and a soda for $17, which is really not that bad, you know. And it's delicious. The burgers at Shake Shack are unbelievable. So I was doing New York for about $200 a day, which is not that bad. It's not that bad. I did have some fancy dinners thrown in there, nothing too fancy. I guess for a little over 2 weeks, about $3,000. Really, it's okay, you know. So for the hotel, I was staying at Pod 39. And the Pod is a hotel where the rooms are very, very small. They're nice rooms. They're very comfortable, but they're tiny. And I even splurged and got the queen bed. You can get a twin bed for a little bit less, but I figured I'm going to be staying there for 2 weeks. I want to be a little bit more comfortable. I don't want to be sleeping in a twin bed. So it cost me an extra $20 a night. It wasn't really that bad. So very comfortable hotel. A lot of people use that hotel for hookups because it's cheap. People go in there, they do their thing, and then they go back to work. So, I mean, I've heard this from several people. I do not know this from personal experience, okay? But people have affairs, they go to the Pod, and yeah, that's what happens. So, and I used to be in the Coast Guard, and so I'm used to staying in tiny rooms. You know, I was in a tiny stateroom with another dude on a Coast Guard cutter for 2 years. In that stateroom, we called the anti-gravity chamber for reasons that should be obvious. It was anti-gravity, and I puked all over the place in that room. It was terrible. So I'm pretty proud of myself for not spending that much money. You know, I think that's an accomplishment. To be in New York for 2 weeks and spend $3,000, like, that's pretty good, you know? What did I do in my free time? Well, I went to the Museum of Modern Art one time. It was $25. I paid cash. So I paid cash for just about everything I could. I showed up there with about $1,500 in cash, and I left with about $1,000 in cash. I spent $500 in cash, like, over 2 weeks, you know, so it was pretty good. You ever know somebody when they travel? When they travel, it's like a big deal. Like, when they travel, they have to do it right. They got to stay in the fanciest hotels and go to the nicest restaurants, and they just blow it out. And so any trip turns into this huge production where they're spending like 10 or 20 grand for like 5 days, you know? And all I have to say is, if you don't travel like that, if you travel a little lighter, then you can take more trips. I mean, if you're spending 20 grand a trip, you can do that like once or twice a year, and that's it. You know, if you spend 3 grand a trip, then you can do that multiple times. So, my trip to Vegas, that was another one. I forgot about that. My trip to Vegas, I got the hotel room with points. And I got cheap flights, and I made money gambling. I had a couple of nice dinners. And for the trip, I was out a couple $100 for the entire trip in Vegas. Vegas, a place where, like, money just disappears. And I stayed there for 3 nights for a couple $100. So I have a trip to Miami coming up in August. Now, this is the thing for me. Every year I go to Miami in August. Okay, now I have a lot of subscribers in Miami. I go to visit them, but I always go in August. Why August? It sucks. It's so hot. Yes, but the hotels are cheap. because nobody goes there in August. So I'm staying at the one hotel, which is ordinarily $2,000 a night, and I'm staying for $600. And I've never stayed in the one hotel. I'm like, I want to check this out. Like, I got to see what this is all about. And I'm going to get to stay there for $600 a night, the cheapest time of the year, you know? And the flight from Charleston to Miami is absurdly cheap. It's $250. So, and I bet you I get upgraded to first class. And that's a business trip, so I can write the whole thing off. You see, you get smart about this stuff. You get smart about how to travel. And that's how you live a stress-free financial life. I'm serious. You know, you can be comfortable when you're traveling. The 2 weeks I spent in New York, I was completely comfortable. I was fine, right? I mean, sometimes when I go to New York, I stay in an expensive hotel, and that is nicer. But I don't need to do that all the time. If I'm going to be spending 2 weeks there, I get the cheap hotel. So there's ways to save money. One way to do this is with the Hotel Tonight app, which I actually haven't used in a few years, but I've used it sometimes. I used it once in Miami, actually, when I was trying to fly back to South Carolina, and the flight was canceled because there was an ice storm. So I was stuck in Miami, and I was using the Hotel Tonight app, and I saved a whole bunch of money off really nice hotels. So I recommend it. It's terrific. As for restaurants, you know, everybody wants to go to the 5-star places. And if you're on a budget, there's plenty of other options. In New York, you can eat street meat. You can eat in New York for like $20 a day if you try. You can eat in New York for $20 a day. The street meat is amazing. Chicken over rice, lamb over rice, white sauce, hot sauce. It's delicious. It's like legitimately wholesome food. You get a whole meal for $8. Street meat. I've only had it make me sick one time. Just once. I only got sick off of street meat once. But that did not stop me from getting street meat. So I could have hot dogs. I can make a meal out of hot dogs. Speaking of which, I have a story about that. Do you remember the blackout in New York City in like 2003, 2004? I think it was 2003. The power went out in like the whole Northeast, and it was out for like a day. I couldn't get back home. I was stranded in the city, and I was trying to get some food. So I went to a hot dog stand, and some douchebag like bought every single hot dog in the hot dog stand, and the hot dog guy like raised the price to $5, and the guy bought them all anyway. He spent a couple $100, and he just walked off with all the hot dogs. And I didn't eat dinner. Hoarding. Yeah. There's economic lessons in that too. So, and as I've said before, I will occasionally go camping. I like camping. You know, sleeping on the ground, I think every once in a while is good for you. Not in the middle of the summer in South Carolina. That's not good. But, yeah, I have no problems with sleeping on the ground in a tent. You know, when I was in college, you know, when you're in college, like, you're broke and you just have to save money. So I had 3 weeks a year with my girlfriend, fiance, and we used to get in the car, and our thing was we would just drive randomly. We get a road atlas, just go here, and we just start driving, and we'd drive all day, and then we'd look for the little green triangles on the map where there was a campground, and we'd stay in the campground, and we'd stay for $5 a night, $8 a night, and it was awesome. And we'd stop by a little store, get some food. Like, it was great. I'd love to do that again. You know, I really would. So are we talking about being a CF here? Are we cheap fucks? Is that what this is all about? You know, because kind of my shtick is, I talk about this all the time, about how pointless it is to try to save small amounts of money. Well, traveling is, it's not a large amount of money, but it's kind of a medium amount of money, you know? And if you think relative to what I could have done when I went to New York, I mean, I saved $6,000 or $7,000, you know, which is like a medium amount of money. So this is a good place to take a look. And like I said, we're not doing anything that's going to cause us discomfort, right? I'm not talking about staying in a hostel or anything like that, you know. But I'm pretty adaptable. I'm easy. I can stay in all different kinds of places. And you have these people who get rich and they get very spoiled and they can only stay in the 5-star places. And you know people like that. And that's not me. As long as it's clean, like it's fine. Having said that, there have been occasions where I spent too much. Now, I was back up in Connecticut in May to present an award at my high school, and I stayed in the Mohegan Sun, and it cost me like $500 a night. Big mistake. I shouldn't have done it. There's plenty of other hotels in the area, and part of it was I wanted to gamble, and I did play some craps, and I did bet on some sports, and I actually made money. But I did not need to stay in the Mohegan Sun for $500 a night. I did not need to do that. I could have stayed someplace for $200 a night, and I would have saved $1,000, and that would have been better, right? So, trying to think if I have any other trips coming up. I don't think I do. Next time, we're going to talk about how to save money on toothpaste. I'm just kidding. You can buy all the toothpaste you want. So, I did have a great time working at Bloomberg. The free food is amazing. Free food, man. Here's my theory on free food. If you think about it, it's pretty smart of Bloomberg, right? Like people, they don't go out for lunch. They stay there and they eat lunch and they get back to their desk and they work. So it makes people more productive. But the thing about food, if you give somebody food, you have their loyalty. Right? Not money, but food. And food is very cheap. It's a very simple thing. You give somebody food and they're loyal to you. And this applies across all species. I feed my cats and they're loyal to me because I'm the one that gives them food. They get free food. They don't have to work for it. So, I mean, it's a small thing. I mean, maybe Bloomberg spends $15 a day per person. And relative to what they're paying people, it's really not that much. And it's really the gesture that counts. And people love the free food. So I'm actually surprised more companies don't do that. Because it's just a really smart thing to do. I will say it was a little weird working in an office with other people because I'm used to writing in a room by myself. Thanks for listening to the Be Smart podcast. I'm Jared Dillian. See you next time.